Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the AI Rebels podcast. We're very excited to have Rahul on today, the founder and CEO of Julius AI, which we're very excited to talk about. They are having lots of success in the data analysis and data science realm, and I'm sure more. I know you're doing a lot, so we're excited to talk about that. Let me do a quick intro. Rahul has a great, very interesting background. He was the co-founder of WaterView. Um, I was trying to look into WaterView, Rahul. Can you give a quick high level of what that was exactly?
Totally. So this was back in college when I would go to a lot of hackathons, and a problem I realized a lot of people building applications and MVPs were facing was that it was a lot of work to get your application set up and running, to even like work on the actual things you want to build. So the vision behind it was, can we give people the primitives that they can just run a few commands and get like a scaffolding up and running? We started with a database that was in memory. It was called WaterView. We launched it, and some people at hackathons used it. It didn't really take off, but it was a great learning experience in startups,
Yeah,
building something people want, and iterating on ideas. So
I
that's
love it.
WaterView.
That's awesome. Interesting. And then Rahul was also spent a little time at Facebook as a software engineer, as an intern, and then at Uber as a software engineer. Now you're the founder and CEO of Julius AI. I'd love to hear the backdrop of Julius AI. What was it that that gave you this idea? What was the story there? How did you come up with this?
Yeah, totally. So we're a small group of AI hackers in San Francisco. We think AI is pretty cool and it can help people do really useful things. And all of us are engineers, so we thought one of the things it can help us do is write code. So we got together, started working on different projects that do code generation using AI. What that means is, if you're doing a task that requires some kind of coding, either building an application or doing data analysis, you can have the AI do it for you. So we sort of started experimenting with ideas there. We did some SQL work, um, and around 12 months ago, we realized that Python and AI writing Python is really, really powerful. And that's when we built and launched Julius. Um, and that's sort of like a quick backdrop to how we came to Julius.
So with Julius, was the original intention always like just data analysis, or did you kind of start out building something else and then hit on data analysis as like the kind of the salient use case?
Great question. So we are really building coding agents, right? We're
Mhm.
building AIs that can write code and run code and do certain tasks for you and abstract
Mm,
away a lot of the complexity for the end user. So end user can just really talk to the AI in English, and the AI can do the task for you using
Mhm.
code. Now we knew that that was going to happen. There's going to be a future where AIs will write pretty much all of our code, and we saw early signs of that with tools like GitHub Copilot. Like GitHub Copilot
Mhm.
was writing like 50% plus of my code, and I'm an engineer, and I was sort of quarterbacking GitHub Copilot to give me, codes like writing doc strings and comments. Um, but our vision really was that this will be 10 times more useful for people who have no idea how code works.
Mhm.
And um, the models are going to improve, so somebody needs to build a product here that solves and brings this to like billions of people.
Mhm.
Now, we looked at where the future was going to go, and we saw where the need was today. And we realized that, for every one person in a company or an organization that knows how to do data science or data analysis and coding, there's 10 people who have lots of data on their hands. And they work in roles like finance, sales, marketing, operations, research. And they want to ask questions about that data, but they lack the expertise to actually code and implement the analysis. Um, so we realized that the future is going this way, and this is where the need is today. So we need to build something um, that solves the problem with this new evolving technology. Um, and that's when we built Julius.
Wow.
That's
And are you
interesting.
finding, I saw something, I think it was on your LinkedIn or maybe it was Julius LinkedIn, but you're past 500,000 users at this point, right?
Yeah,
Which is incredible. That's huge. Um, are you, what type of user are you finding? Is it individual users? Is it, startups? Are you starting to attract enterprise large clients? Where's that at?
great question. So when we first launched, we were really wrong about who would find this really useful. We thought it would be the data scientists and data analysts.
Yeah.
And as I explained just now, there's for every one of those people, there's 10 people in a company that work in roles like finance, sales, marketing, research, operations that have massive amounts of data on their hand. They have a lot of curiosity, but they lack the expertise to implement that analysis. Um, and we realized that those are the people who are just organically signing up and starting with us. So what we really focused on is not sales, but building a great product. Um, and that's all we do is we build a great product, we put it out there. People sign up. A lot of those folks end up being individuals that discover Julius either through word of mouth, through a friend, through a colleague. They sign up, they start using it, and then eventually they bring it into their team, their office, their enterprise. Um, but we really focus all our energy on building a great product and then sort of letting the users do the evangelism for us. Uh, Another segment of users that we have found a lot of love from is university professors.
Hmm.
Traditionally, professors tend to really dislike AI tools because they're used for cheating.
Right.
What we found was that we are primarily focused on code generation and data science and statistical analysis, and for those folks, they really like the fact that AI can help with research, right? You can take massive amounts of genomics data and have Julius crunch that data and give you really valuable insights that would normally take you days, but now you can do it in minutes. And those folks really like Julius. So we have institutions like Rice University, Harvard Business School, um, using Julius to teach whole classes. One of the most bizarre things that we discovered last semester, and I would actually love to show it to you on a screen if that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd
Uh,
be awesome.
but one of the professors, he uses Julius for his class at Rice University. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and um, his slides, every single one of his slides, just basically talks about how these students
Oh
can
my
use.
gosh.
Ask
So
Julius.
ask Julius, tell Julius, ask Julius, um, and ask Julius. So this was really exciting for us when we realized that, wow, there's this whole generation of graduate students who are going to learn how to do financial analysis and
Yeah.
using prompting Julius, and it's going to deliver a lot of productivity to these people. And it's a completely new way of learning. So that has been like a segment of users we've received a lot of love from, and they really like using Julius.
That's super interesting. I was wondering with Julius, is there ever a and maybe this is something that you can't talk about right now, but is there ever a plan to offer just like an independent, this is Julius, he is your AI agent, independent of the web UI you have built, so like an API or an SDK, something like that?
Yeah, we do get a lot of requests for that actually.
Yeah.
Either there's two kinds of requests. One is people want to use the agent via an API,
Hmm.
and the second is people want to get access to the infrastructure that we have built. Um, and we, as much as we would love to serve both of those users, the question becomes, can we split our focus right now
Hmm.
between, serving those users and also the users that are like coming to us organically and using that the whole full stack product. Um, Once we are a little bit bigger, I think I see us becoming a more Amazon-like company where
Yeah.
not only do we have Amazon retail, but we have AWS, and we give
Right.
access to some of our core infrastructure for running and building AI agents to people that want access to it, um, as well as like Amazon has both their own products on the marketplace, but also sellers on the marketplace. So I
Mhm.
could see, being able to use Julius without the interface as one of those offerings where
Mhm.
you just use the power of Julius via an API. So it's all TBD. We would love to do that. The question becomes like, can we split the focus right now, or should we split the focus a little bit down the line?
No, that makes total sense. Like I think it makes, and I'm just a dude on a podcast, but I think that it makes total sense to go the direction of focusing on the product first, rather than like
Yeah.
building an API. Because it feels like once you go like the route of kind of focusing on more like the B2B SaaS type plan, you kind of get locked into a specific type of business.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's also because we would, if we do an API, we would love to build a real high quality API.
Yeah.
And just as right now, I don't feel the conviction that we would be able to deliver a really high quality API if our
Yeah.
focus is still on the main product. So yeah,
No, that makes sense. And you build that credibility with users with that high quality product. So, you kind of build that foundation, and then a lot of those users will just naturally transition, I think, to other things you have because they'll love
absolutely. Although like with the API, there's definitely an interesting future where with these agents, you have multiple agents doing tasks for you in parallel. Like you're running multiple threads at once.
it.
That becomes harder to manage from a single interface. And you probably would want to hook up a Slack bot to the API and talk to these different employees.
Yeah.
That feature is somewhere down the line, hopefully within the next couple of years, if not next couple of months. AI
Nice.
moves,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, very
we'll see.
nice. Well, I know you said you don't focus on sales, which is admirable. I don't, I think the product sells itself. But on the flip side, I'm going to ask you to sell Julius AI a little bit here because I'm curious if there are any really cool, really interesting use cases that you've heard or big impacts that you've heard of Julius AI making. I'm curious just like what you've seen this tool being used for.
Yeah, totally. Well, just last night, one of our users, let me just look up his name real quick. I think he will appreciate a quick shout out. He reached out on Twitter and said he's been working with consultants for a long time, and he's able to when he works with new clients, when he takes their data, it usually takes him a couple of days to crunch through all the information and then provide them insights and actionable plans. And he's able to reduce a lot of that process from a couple of days to like 20 minutes. And he just DM'd me that last night after he gave a shout out about Julius
Wow.
to a data scientist who works in baseball for the Red Sox. So
Cool.
that's how,
Boston, love it.
yeah. So that's how I found out about his use case. There's really like these tools to some extent are generalizable, so you can use it for consulting and financial analysis, to also crunching genomics data or like biological data or experiment data. So some of those use cases have been really really mind blowing. On the biology side and the science side, some users from Marin County out here in California reached out and said, "Hey, we have been using your tool to do anti-aging research." So they work in an anti-aging research
Cool.
lab, and they collect massive amounts of data. And their expertise is biology, right? Their expertise is not like programming. They have to learn R or Python to do some of the analysis, and now they're able to use Julius to speed up a lot of that work. And when they reached out and told us, we were really blown away by it because we, just being able to accelerate some of this research by even 1 or 2% is just so meaningful.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's where AI is going to find so much, where not all the value, but most of the value in AI for the next few years, I think is going to come in stuff like this, where it's like, it's not quite there yet to, do a lot of this stuff itself, but there are so many teams that are going to benefit from this. Like I think of like little sign shops in Iowa who, you know, now have new tools to analyze their own financials, and they don't have to, you know, go hire someone on Fiverr or whatever their current process is. I don't know.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, Rahul, could we see, I don't know if you have something pulled up or if you could show um, just what it looks like a use, how it can be used?
That was going to be my
Absolutely.
next question as well.
I'd love to give
Nice.
a quick walkthrough of Julius. Uh, so this is Julius, and really what's happening under the hood is we have language models that take your requests and convert your requests, apply some reasoning to it, and then turn those requests into code to accomplish the tasks. And the code gets executed in a remote computer that's exclusively for the AI. So you can see the health of your container here. We give each user about 8 gigabytes of RAM to 32 gigabytes of RAM. And this is a very simple interface where we abstract away a lot of the complexity. Now, what a user can really do is they can come upload a data set they have on their hand into Julius, and then before they even start prompting the AI with questions, they can simply click on the data set and start getting insights. So this is a feature we built that's completely AI native, where we realized that for a lot of users, a big question was, what do I even ask the AI? And really what we're doing is we're utilizing small models to take the data you're really clicking on and start generating asynchronous insights for you before you can even think of what
Mm.
questions to ask. So this is, the AI just showing us like, hey, this is the relationship I found between gene expression and cell count in condition B. And specifically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say just like load this data set and show me a few rows. Now, as it's doing that, I want to quickly show some of the other features we offer. For example, if you want to change between kernels, we support R, Python, soon GPUs, so you can even give the AI its own GPU to run and execute code in. Underneath the hood, it's basically running this code in a Jupyter notebook. And for a technical user, they can read the code, understand what's happening, even make edits to the code and run it again. Or if you're a non-technical user or non-programmer, you can even get a simple English understanding of the code. So you can still understand the logic that the AI is writing and executing. So here's the AI just like loaded the data set in pandas, showed us the df.head. I'm going to quickly show this advanced reasoning feature that we have been working on, which uses some of the reasoning capabilities of these newer models. So what you can do is you can give it a open-ended task, and you can say, show me some cool visualizations. And the goal here is the AI can take a very abstract task, break it down into a few steps, and go and create those visualizations for us or execute those steps to achieve the end goal. And so here it should be writing Python and executing that Python for us to give us those visualizations. Now, where it gets
Wow.
interesting is that the AI, when it makes mistakes in its own code, it's able to self-correct. So here in this case, it ran this code, ran into an error, and is able to look at the error and figure its way out of the error. So it ran into a file not found error. For a non-technical user, that's pretty intimidating, right? So, but the AI, you're able to sort of like sit back and have the AI come up with the steps to resolve the error in the code and then keep moving.
So, question on that: what do you guys do? And this could probably be a whole podcast in of itself. What do you guys do for the container health? As in, do you do any type of analysis on the code before running it to make sure that it's not going to that it doesn't obviously throw a infinite loop or something like that?
Yeah.
Or is it purely you run it and you see what happens?
Great question. So here the AI came up with some interesting visualizations for us. By breaking the very abstract task down into a series of steps, and it gave us a few different trends in time of the day versus expression, correlation matrix and a heat map, and then some scatter plots as well as a box plot. And you're also able to interact with the box plots or the plots manually, change colors, rename the values, etc. And you can always export that. So um,
That's sweet.
that's
really
really
cool.
so,
Really cool.
so your question, was it Spencer who asked the question?
Yeah.
Cool. So answer Spencer's question. We don't do validation before running the code today, but what we do though is stream metrics back to the user in the interface, so they can see your RAM usage, your CPU utilization go up, and hopefully we get to a point where we're able to detect some of these things ahead of time and prevent the containers from crashing. But right now, the way we think about this is at least we need to give the user some visibility into what's happening.
Interesting. Nice.
Yeah, that's very user-friendly.
Thank you.
Really amazing.
Yeah,
Really
that's Julius.
Like
How many iterations have you gone through to get to this?
Oh, pretty much we do like a lot. Yeah. We're always, experimenting with new ideas. Most of the feature ideas we come up with don't work right away, but we keep iterating, running experiments, talking to users, and figuring out like what is the right form factor. One thing we do believe in deeply is building the product completely AI native, but not like a product that's just a regular software with a couple AI features sprinkled in, but more like thinking from first principles. If this was built up, ground up from AI, what would that look like?
Really like that, because I think that something that I've become a little bit more pessimistic about is the prospects of like AI generated user interfaces. But I think that like something like Julius is perfect for, generating those box plots, etc., on the fly. I think that that's a perfect usage, and I think that there's a lot of people who are either reaching too far or not far enough. It's been cool to see Julius.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. On the AI generated user interfaces, like there's a very fine line between giving the users a completely AI native experience versus making your interface so brand new each time that the users aren't familiar with it, and the part isn't intuitive for the users to use. A big part of interfaces is like, it looks familiar, and if it looks familiar, like users will have a much easier time using it. So there's definitely a fine line, and there's been many times where we built something that the users didn't find intuitive at all, but we keep always iterating and experimenting with ideas. So if something doesn't work, we always pull that out and put a new feature in there.
Has there been a particular feature that has stood out to you in either its difficulty to develop or kind of length of time it took to finally get into the app?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest asks from very early on was support for R. And, users, we just had support for Python, and users would reach out and tell us, hey, this is a great tool. Can you guys please add support for R kernels? And we kept pushing back on that request because we would tell them, guys, you can do the exact same analysis in Python, maybe even better, that you can do in R. So just use Python. And then after a point of time, the requests kind of got to a point where we decided to finally go and build it. And we realized that our package management is really hard. And one of the things about these language models is that they all have a knowledge cutoff date. So whether it be 2022 or like some point 2023 or some point 2024, the knowledge cutoff date, they remember versions of each package differently. So if your knowledge cutoff date is like 2023, you remember like ggplot version whatever 13, not 13.5. And you want to make sure that your environments are compatible with the versions that the AI remembers. So if you have ggplot version 13.5, but the AI remembers 13, some of the code is going to error out and it's going to create more errors. in the code. And that's a metric we track pretty heavily, is how often does the AI write code? And then when it runs the code, how often does that lead to errors?
Mhm.
And how quickly can it recover from those errors? You
Hmm.
can't always have zero errors. And that's the beauty of code execution, is because you can always run the code and know whether the code was correct or not. If the code threw errors, it could be like a syntax error, or dependency issue, it could be a variety of things. And one of the things we track pretty heavily is like, how do we keep those errors low? Or at least when the errors happen, how quickly can we recover from those and deliver the user a great experience?
Mhm.
So a big part of that is just making sure your environments are compatible with what the AI remembers. And with R, that gets really interesting, because with R, each package is linked to a version of R. So they all get packaged into like R version 19, or 19.1. And so unlike Python, you can't have a granular versioning for each package or each dependency. You need to sort of have it
Hmm.
for the whole kernel. And it was our first time dealing with it, but we, kept at it, and we were able to get it out there for our users. And a lot of users went from using and struggling with RStudio to just using Julius now,
Hmm.
and completely bypassing the process of having to learn R.
Wow.
That's the best way to learn R. I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
So,
really curious. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
no, go ahead. You're good.
I was going to ask a nerdy question about package management. I was just curious. So with the package management for Python, is there kind of a set of Python packages that you have installed globally to the container and then install new packages as they're needed, or is it kind of all on the fly?
Yeah, we try to look at what are the packages that tend to get used pretty often by the AI for our users,
Mhm.
and try to make sure that, to sort of speed up the time at runtime and deliver the users a great experience, try to give a lot of the popular packages, make them pre-installed in the containers.
Mhm.
Um, it does get tricky when users want to use some advanced packages. Either users or the AI decides that, oh, to achieve the user's task, I need this either obscure or it's advanced package. Sometimes AI will even decide to run TensorFlow or PyTorch. Um, you could literally go to US and say, like, train an MNIST model using TensorFlow or PyTorch, and it will do that. On a CPU,
Hmm.
it will take some time though. And uh, so when that happens, it does run into dependency issues.
Mhm.
So we do allow package installation on the fly, but we
Mhm.
also have to make sure that the environments come built in with some of the most popular packages. So the at runtime is just a breeze. And then we also offer different versions of Python. So we call it lean Python, but we
Mhm.
realize that some users that only want to work with advanced packages, they don't need everything from um, TensorFlow to Polars to Pandas, all that installed in the environment. So how about we give them a very lean version of the container and the kernel that only has a few packages installed, and then the AI can decide what to install on the fly.
Interesting.
One more question there. So in the and I'm not familiar enough yet with Python to know if this is an issue with how do you say that, pronounce like the Python package manager, like Pipey?
Oh,
PyPy?
oh, I don't know how to pronounce that. Yeah, PyPy.
Okay. Anyways,
Yeah,
so a problem with like npm is like, name squatting. Like someone, you have a project called React, and then someone goes and grabs React dash dash JS or something like that, right?
yeah.
Is that a problem? First of all, is that a problem in Python? And then second, if it is, have you had to take any effort to mitigate that issue with your containers?
I would assume that it's a problem in Python for sure, because I don't think there's a review process before you can like squat in a package name.
Yeah.
We haven't had to haven't had to deal with that issue yet, because really the AI uh, knows a lot of these packages as long as they're like
Mhm.
popular. and the AI will try to not use a package that it doesn't know about. So unless you explicitly tell it to like go use a particular package, which happens very rarely.
Mhm.
So we haven't run into that issue yet. No, that would be funny if you run into that.
Yeah, no, I was wondering about that because I've had once or twice when ChatGPT recommended like an NPM package to me, and I was like, I've never heard of that one. And I go look at it, and I'm like, oh, that's because like it's not. This is just clearly like someone trying to piggyback off the cloud of another package.
Yeah,
Or like a
classic.
false like big pandas package or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
but
funny.
yeah, Jake, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask more of a just from your experience with Julius AI, and you've been in this AI space now. You're even in the hub. You're in San Francisco.
Yeah.
We have talked to so many people and heard of so many people moving to San Francisco, wanting to start an AI company or join one. Are there any words of wisdom or advice that you would give to either side, someone trying to start an AI company or join one, just from your experience so far?
So this is in general start a company, join a company, or specifically about San Francisco?
Maybe more specifically like an AI based with this huge AI craze happening,
Yeah,
specifically with AI.
totally. Well, so if you're starting a company in AI, or if you're looking to join a company in AI, one thing I would not think too deeply about is moat. A year ago, people told us ChatGPT is going to kill us, and prevailing opinion was, ChatGPT is going to kill all startups. I think startups die because they built something that people don't want, uh, or they die more often from like suicide than like from competition, especially in the
Mm,
early stage. So, um, moat is like a very further down the line thing. Like, I mean, in fact, even moat is like a defensive position, right? From even military strategy perspective, moats were built as defense, not as offense.
right.
Uh, and startups, you should be playing offense. Like, just go out there, build something, take an idea, try to execute on it, and ship as soon as possible, no matter how simple it is. It could be an AI photo editor, even though there's 10 million of those out there. Maybe you have a unique perspective. Like, who knows? Like, the only way to learn is by shipping and then letting the market tell you whether the thing you
Mm,
built is something that people, um, especially when you're like super early on. I think action produces information. So it's better to like just act and do something as opposed to like theorizing and like planning and contemplating.
yeah.
Um, and it's also surprisingly critical to nail product. People thought, you it's just like chat GPT and etc. will just basically crush all startups. Turns out users really appreciate when a product just gets them. And we have seen that with products like Cursor, Super Maven, Julius, Perplexity, etc. Like if you build something that is novel and is intuitive and has a lot of thought put into it, people will like you. People will love you. And you should be focusing on just that in the early days.
Yeah, I want to make a quick point here. Piggybacking off of that, like I think like the only moat for startups is iterating fast. Something I've learned working at startups, and especially
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure that I was even an early Julius skeptic. Like, there's probably some tweets out there that I was saying that like a code interpreter would
Don't look at
destroy
Spencer's
it or something
history.
like that. like full disclosure there. But I've been really impressed with like the work you guys have done in building a full product around it. Because like people, they looked at code interpreter and I don't think that they looked deeper, but you guys did and built like a really compelling use case around that functionality. So
Thank
I've
you.
been impressed to watch you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Spencer. Totally. I think, I've been a skeptic many times too. And so I appreciate the transparency there. And it's really like, we sort of feel like it's sort of our mission now because code interpreter is sort of like an orphan. Like somebody needs
Yeah.
to somebody needs to do this. Like this has to be
Yeah.
critical. Like if we don't do it, like is code interpreter going to do it? Don't think so. We have to do this. Like, people need this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think we've had so many guests on, and I feel like there's this desire. I don't know if you think of the amount of data out there in every single industry. It's truly, it's like when you try to think of like the universe. Like you can't even wrap your head around how much data is out there and is continually coming into existence every day. And so, like we had a guest on a while ago who was working on a tool to give better access to like small indigenous languages. He was building like small data sets for these indigenous languages to hopefully allow like me, English speaker, to understand the history of this people and be able to read it in English or translate what I'm saying into this indigenous language and to finally have like a back and forth with these languages and bring them to life. And that's just like one language, let alone, I mean, this opens the doors to non-coders everywhere to get the story behind their data and like access. It truly is like a treasure trove for like a startup. My dad growing up, he was always in the startup realm. He was an entrepreneur to heart.
Love that.
And he always stressed just like split testing and data. He's like, just iterate, get it out there, see how it does, and then if it doesn't work, change something, do it again. And it all comes down to data. And Julius, I think, is very well positioned, and I'm very interested to see what happens next. I'm curious if you have like a vision for 1 year from now or 5 years from now or whatever it is. Is there a next step for Julius of expansion or innovation, whatever that is?
Yeah, definitely. Well, so one of the core parts is the code generation capabilities, and then supporting the infrastructure to do that. Um, so we right now serve about 500,000 containers for code execution every month, and a lot of our like bottlenecks in scaling are there. So how do we give more control to our users, build those containers in a more scalable fashion? Um, Doing things like you log off from Julius, you come back the next day, we spin back up the container that you were using, so it's sort of like in the same state that you were in before. Being able to support that's definitely on the first order on the infrastructure side. On the experience side, how do we take all this complexity and make it really, really simple for our users so that they understand, first of all, what's going on under the hood, and then being able to use all this power from the models, from the containers, from the code execution capabilities to be able to do their tasks in a very intuitive way. Like things like reusability, being able to like build up memory with Julius over time, like teach it skills. Each code block could be a skill that you can have the AI remember and then reuse it the next time you come. There's a lot to figure out there from the interface and the AI side. Ultimately, there's different ways this could expand. It could be like you start working with Julius, and then the end product is either a report or an insight or even a dashboard or an application that you can hit a button on and deploy and then interact with in the UI. So all these things are really, really useful to our users. And what we're looking for right now is we're growing really fast. So if there's people listening to this podcast who want to come join,
we'll put up the bat signal.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot out there for sure.
How many are on your team right now? Just out of curiosity.
We're 5 people, including me.
Oh, wow.
A couple of people helping out part-time. And all of us are technical, all of us write code.
Dang, nice. I was guessing around 10, so I'm impressed.
Very impressed. Which just goes to show that, I'm sure you're using
force
AI.
multiplier.
Yeah, right? Yeah, seriously.
AI pretty heavily in.
Yeah. I'm curious, with using AI, if we exit the professional realm in your day-to-day life, Rahul, are there any AI tools or AI uses that you use just day-to-day outside of work even?
For fun,
Yeah, for fun
Yeah.
or for functionality to make your life better.
Yeah, I use a couple. I use Grok, by Curio. This is a third Grok. I'm sure you've heard of the Grok chip. You've heard of
Yeah.
Twitter. Third is Curio, which is I got to know the team recently through AI grant, and they're building AI toys for kids, and they're like
Interesting.
little physical toys that the
Oh, I
kids.
think that
Cool.
I think that
Yeah.
I've seen this actually.
Yeah, they're very cool. And I've seen the founders' kids play with the toy and how engaged they are. With the toy, it's like they basically put their iPad aside and they'll just like start talking to this toy, and they're learning all these interesting things and not feeling lonely or looking at a screen the
Wow.
whole time. And I bought one too because I was really curious. I talked to
Yeah.
it sometimes, just for fun.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, and I like how it like dumbs things down for me. Um, it's a literal physical toy, and um, the other is, I would say, Claude. I like using Claude a lot, and just for random questions and stuff.
Hmm.
Nice. Do you ever like rubber duck your code to this toy? Because I've been interested in having that.
I should honestly. I mean, I think it's like GPT-3 or GPT-4. So I should be able to prompt engineer the AI toy. Actually, I'm not sure if you would like me doing that, but I'm definitely gonna give that a try now. Like I haven't like it's like Whisper. I should probably like, just tell it what you know to like ignore instructions and just like help me with coding. Uh, I should definitely try that. Yeah.
Shifting gears just slightly, moving to a broader point of view, what advice would you give someone who is interested in AI or maybe slightly worried about AI?
Worried from a
You
job.
know, their job, extinction, whatever, whatever fear they have.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think from a jobs perspective, we're going to be more than fine
Mhm.
because technology has always automated parts of our lives that are cumbersome and not interesting. And one thing, this has been sort of talked about since machines first became part of our day to day. That machines are going to take our jobs. It predates computers, and now you have these really advanced computers. And what I'm really excited about the future of humanity for is we always have ideas to try.
Mhm.
And we have been able to use machines, no matter how powerful they are, to help us test those ideas, build those ideas, and get to those ideas. And I think we're going to be fine, more than fine, as long as we have ideas we can try, and
Mhm.
ideas we can build with
Hmm.
these machines. And no matter how intelligent these machines are or useful these machines are, like as long as we keep coming up with those ideas to try, we're going to end up in a great spot. So um, I'm pretty excited about where the future is. I'm not worried about jobs. I don't think people should be. It's more like what can you do with these things?
Yeah.
Um, and there's so much to learn and so much to do. In fact, we sort of went through this like slump for like the last decade where things weren't really happening. There was
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys seen that meme. Nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
Um, it was sort of like that. There was like nothing really happening. The most exciting thing people are working on was crypto, and
There were like 500 different subscription box startups,
yeah,
and I never
um,
understood that trend.
yeah, and there's finally this like watershed moment where like things are finally happening. There's so much to explore, so much to do. As long as people have the curiosity and ideas to try, we're gonna end up with solutions that we didn't know we could even get to in the past. So that's my perspective on job risk and just like risk in general.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, that tracks very closely with what we've heard from a lot of people,
Hmm.
and what we feel ourselves, that there are some jobs where, like, the nature of the job will change for sure. but people are really overrating the whole job loss. And I feel like people are overrating it less now than they were, 6-8 months ago, which is good.
Do you think, Rahul, we've asked this of several guests and gotten some varying answers, and I'd be curious your perspective. Obviously, there was a huge surge, a huge boom with AI, with ChatGPT and these things, and we've started to hear people say, "Oh, has it plateaued? Are we kind of at the critical mass here for AI, at least for the foreseeable future?" Or is it even inflated? Are we in an AI bubble similar to the dot-com bubble or whatever it is? Where do you think we're at? Do you think we're just at a lull waiting for the next innovation? What do you think the AI world has in store?
I think we are at a point where people are tired of being overpromised by demos and being underdelivered. And you see this from big companies to even startups.
Yeah.
You always get excited about a cool demo, and then as soon as you try the thing, your expectations are like have not get met. And it's always like it's when you try the product. I wouldn't name the companies, but
they're out there.
yeah, you never end up seeing them ship, or they take forever to ship. But what would have so I think we are at a point where a lot of those promises aren't being fulfilled, and it's really frustrating because you look at the actual models, and when you start playing with them, you realize that, oh my god, where the models are today, we have maybe like scratched 1% of the surface area for useful things you can build with those models. So there's just like massive mismatch where you have all these promises of people like making cool demos, but then the actual products don't live up to the expectation. But you also look at these models that power these products, and you realize that even if the models stop improving, there's still like 100x, stuff you can do with, like products you can build with them, features you can build with them, and it's really frustrating. You have this massive mismatch. But luckily, that's not going to happen, right? The B100s are going to come out at some point in time this year, early next year, and the models are going to improve a lot. Even more frontier will be opened. In terms of the slump, I think it's likely from the former. Julius has grown for every single month since we have launched, and we launched pretty like about 10 months after ChatGPT launched. So we haven't personally seen that slump. We have always grown each month since we launched. I think I have seen macro trends for just adoption in general of AI, and it's also funny because if you look at the most popular tools like ChatGPT and their usage, and they're doing great, but they've only like reached maybe 10% of total internet users. There's still 90% of the users are still out there up for grabs. And so what we need is more people building products right now with the models, with where the models are, and building products that are like reliable and actually work, and help get those remaining 90% of people onto AI.
I think that it's slowly happening, and ironically enough, I think that TikTok is one of the channels that's kind of normalizing AI usage in a lot of ways. Like, I think that a lot of people still don't realize that what they're using is fairly state-of-the-art AI techniques, but like there's new animate diff trends going viral on TikTok all the time, and that's all driven through CapCut. Like, CapCut has an insane hold on that. Yeah, and it'll be interesting as more and more people start using AI tools that don't necessarily advertise that they have AI underneath. Just the macro trends are going to be really interesting. One quick point that I wanted to touch on really quick. That was redundant. Something I wanted to touch on really quick is that there seems to be a lack of people who want to build, like I like to think of AI as like a new type of engine in a way, right? Like it's a new type of computing engine, and to make that go anywhere, like we need to build the wheels, we need to build the steering wheel, we need we need a dashboard, like we need all of these tools to control and understand the engine. And it just feels like there's been a lack of people interested in doing that, and they're much more interested in like, here's AI generated tarot cards that are personalized to your dog.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that problem out there. Yeah, I think, which is why we need like more people building stuff with AI. And it, I think I think of Snapchat as the company that really cracked mobile UX, like mobile native UX. Even Instagram to an extent couldn't, because when you open Snapchat, it's just like a camera, and then there's so much hidden behind swipes. You swipe up, down, left, right, and there's all these other interfaces behind those swipes. And to add text to the photo you take, you just like tap on it. They've really nailed the mobile UX, mobile native UX that even Instagram couldn't nail. Instagram had to copy, but Snapchat came out about 5 years after the launch of iPhone. It took 5 years for Snapchat to come. So I think some of these things take time. Some of these things, I'm hoping more people build these apps and products and wheels and steering wheels with AI. I think we can probably solve that problem with volume. Just more people doing stuff and trying crazy ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
Like AI,
AI
like,
toys.
what if you put like AI physical toy? Like what comes out of it?
Totally. Some novel use cases. That's what we need. Rahul, is there anything that we haven't touched on, or that you would like to talk about briefly before we wrap things up that we haven't asked about? Or Spencer, if there were any questions you had.
No, I got all mine out.
I think it was a great interview.
Thank you. Yeah, no, like this was awesome.
Yeah.
Like I said, like really impressed with what Julius is doing, and that's a genuine compliment. That's not just me hyping you up because it's like you're on my podcast.
Yeah.
And
I mean, month over month growth since you started is outrageous. That's amazing.
Fine. Still a long way to go. We're still in the first innings.
Yeah. I'm impressed with how much you guys have iterated already. Like, because I remember seeing some of the early demos that you posted to Twitter, and I was like, oh, kind of cool. But now seeing it now, like it's a really impressive tool. Well done.
Yeah, very impressive. If our listeners, Rahul, want to follow you, follow Julius, what are the best channels, platforms, handles they should follow?
Absolutely. So Julius is on julius.ai, and on Twitter, Julius AI. You search it. And you can follow me also on Twitter. I just tweet stuff about Julius these days. It's 0, the number 0, and then interest rates. 0 interest rates. And
nice.
That's where they can find me.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rahul. Julius AI.
Julius AI. Coming at you. Here, let me